Okay, I have to admit something. When I wash the dishes at my house, I rush through it. Not the ones that go in the dishwasher, but the ones in the sink, like pots and pans. I rush through it. I want to go watch TV or relax or do something else. And when I go to put those dishes away, they have a little slime on them sometimes. Not like dirty, but like maybe just a little greasy or not perfect. But when I was watching my husband watch dishes last night, I noticed the difference. He doesn't really take a lot more time than I do, but he runs the water a little bit longer so that it gets hot. He adds a little bit more soap to the water than I add. I don't know if I'm being stingy or what, but he adds more than I do. And so what I was thinking about this morning when I wanted to talk to you about carelessness and how we sometimes rush and make mistakes even when we know better. And I think that we do that in our writing too. Like I know that if I use hotter water, soapier water, that the dishes will be cleaner. I just know that, but I'm in a big hurry and I just zoom through. Same thing happens in our writing. And I want to encourage you today to slow down in your writing and use those specific strategies that we talk about today to make your writing better. Like in the same way that maybe I'll use hotter water and maybe more soap, I want to teach you a few ways to make less mistakes with commas. Guys, it is an English teacher's dream day because I love commas. So, let's talk about commas. And I'm not just going to tell you where to put commas. I want us to start thinking about where commas go. There's a difference. Turn to the second page of my copy of my essay. As we read, we're going to circle the commas that we find, only in my writing, not in the quotes that might appear in this writing, because as you know, when you use a quote in a paragraph, you have to copy it, including the punctuation, the exact way that the author did. So I'm just reading, circling, and numbering my commas that I use. Ready? Strayed often uses symbolism from the trail as a way to tell the story of her journey. Toward the end of her hike, as she's lying down after the end of a long day, comma, she hears an owl. She recalls, comma, as I dozed off, I heard an owl in a tree directly overhead. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, it hooted with a call that was at once so strong and so gentle that I woke up. The owl seems to be a symbol of Strayed, comma, who has grown to become much stronger and more gentle than her pre-PCT Pacific Crest Trail self. Whereas before she was emotionally weak and quite harsh in her relationships, comma, Strayed now seems to have a combination of, can you include the word of? So as you're editing for commas, you can also edit for the other stuff that you missed too, but I'd like your focus to be commas today. Blah, blah, blah. Combination of tenderness of heart and strength of body. That the owl is calling who seems significant because Strayed is developing a new sense of who she really is, her identity. And I used a dash there in a way that you might want to experiment with, but that's not our focus for today. So here's the deal. You three over here, you're number one. You three back there, you're number two. You guys right here are number three, and you ladies in the front, you're number four. I want you to talk about the commas as I numbered them. And I want you to think, why did the author use this comma? Like, what was the purpose of this comma? Ready? Talk to your people. Why did the author use these commas? Quick, quick. Okay, time's up.
All right.
Comma number one. I want to recap what I heard. Comma number one, I heard you saying that she needs to add more information, and I heard somebody say time. Like in comma number one, there's time happening before and time happening after the comma. First, she lies down, that's before, and then after the comma, she hears the owl. So sometimes commas tell you time or place information and separate that in a sentence. Comma number two, I heard somebody say the word quote. It comes before the quote. So she recalls, comma, and then give the quote. Or in a story, when we were practicing stories, you might say, she said, comma, blah, blah, blah. Remember the word said? So if you're ever doing that kind of language, she said, she implies, and then including the quote right after it, the comma goes before the quote. You all knew that one. Comma number 3. I heard somebody saying that this gives extra information because the sentence isn't done yet. So the owl seems to be a symbol of straying. I could stop right there with a period, but I wanted to add this extra information about who, right? Who is this? Who? Who is strayed? Who has grown to become much stronger and more gentle. So the comma separates this person and the description of her that I want to give extra information on, right? And then the last one is another one that's kind of like time and description again. Number 4, whereas before she was emotionally weak, right? That's time. Before, comma. Before the comma, she's emotionally weak. After the comma, she now seems to be stronger in body and mentally. I heard you guys saying a lot of really great ideas there. Don't take time right now to write these notes down, but if you want to, they are screen captured on your Google Classroom. These are notes about why authors use commas. Quick recap of what we just talked about today so that you can edit today for commas in your draft. Authors use commas to say when or where something happens. We talked about that earlier. So the pink are the notes and the green is an example. Furthermore, in chapter 6, Thurber uses gloves to symbolize blah, 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 blah. So I put in commas and I circled them so they stand out a little bit more. Here's the interesting thing. If I just wanted to use furthermore, I could, and I could cross out what comes between the commas. Furthermore, Thurber uses gloves to symbolize. Or if I want to get rid of the furthermore before the comma, it would just say, in chapter 6, comma, Thurber uses gloves to symbolize, right? Or I could get rid of both of them and have the sentence just say, Thurber uses gloves to symbolize. But when we're using this transitional type language, sometimes, and pretty often, you have to put the comma in to separate it from the rest of the sentence. Okay. Next, we as authors use commas to list description words or details, especially when there are 3 or more things being listed. Walter feels trapped, that's one description word, frustrated, and lonely, comma and comma. And you might have had people in your past who say that you don't put this comma before the and in a list. Any of you? Have you had that advice before? I argue that you should use the comma. It's called the Oxford comma. It actually has a name. And there's a meme that I'm going to, I know, isn't that crazy? I'm going to show you guys a meme that proves that I'm right about this. And it's kind of funny. It's a joke. When you have 3 things in a list, please separate them with a comma. So 2 commas for 3 things. 3 commas for 4 things, 4 commas for 5 things. I don't know, it's crazy. Next up, you use commas as a writer to add more to a sentence, like a detail or a backstory. Here's the example. Walter rejects the safety and warmth of the gloves, comma, but his wife keeps nagging him to put them on. So this could be a sentence by himself. Walter rejects the safety and warmth of the gloves, period. There's more to it than that, though. So I put a comma and this word, but, which is a conjunction. I don't care that you know that this part of speech is a conjunction, but there are a variety of words that could work for that. Yet, but, nor, so, for, and. So I want to keep these 2 parts of the sentence together because they're interrelated, and using the word but is showing the relationship between those 2 words. Another thing that you could do here in place of the comma but is a semicolon. You know that part of the winky face? This guy? Yeah. A semicolon could work there too. Walter rejects the safety and warmth of the gloves, semicolon. His wife keeps nagging him to put them on. Just sometimes at 8th grade, people get curious about what semicolons do, and that's what they do. The last one, guys, is in quotations. You know this one. The quotation has to have a comma before it. Here's my example. Walter wants adventure, comma. Ooh, there's another comma, but. But his wife urges him to be safe, comma, saying, not so fast, you're driving too fast. So before I can lead into the quote, I have to have a comma before I write what she's saying. That was a quick lesson and a little bit of thinking about why we use commas. Your job today is going to be to go back to your graph and circle every comma you found to think about if it's an appropriate comma use. Off you go.